This is a seminar which we are hosting inside the INVESTMED project. And the title of this seminar is Environmental Impact Assessment of Industries. The speaker of today is Nida Fatima. Nida is from Lahore, Pakistan, and she's a graduate from the University of Punjab. Her academic background is in earth and environmental sciences, and she's currently studying management of sustainable development goals at LUMSA, which is my university here in Rome. And she has also worked as an internee in different organizations. And her main interests of research are in climate change, environmental impact assessments, and water conservation and management. What she will tell us today is how to measure the impact in a specific industry which has been at the center of her professional interest, and she's also working on this case, this industry case, for her thesis and within the master that I was mentioning, the Master in Management of Sustainable Development Goals. So it is a pleasure to be here with you today. It is a pleasure to have Nida Fatima with us, lecturing us on telling us her experience. And so why don't you start your presentation? Maybe at the end I will intervene again as the moderator of the question and answers if there is any question from the floor. The floor is yours, Nida.
Thank you so much, Professor Ferry. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. I'm Nida Fatima, as Professor Ferry have already introduced me. And today, what I am going to present is my work that I have worked during my thesis. I'm going to present here is environmental monitoring and impact assessment of a sugar mill and distillery. First, have a look on an outline that we will discuss today. Okay, introduction. Alcohol is considered a basic material for a number of industries, as we all know, for example, chemical, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, beverages, food, etc. So a number of alcohol industries is increasing worldwide. Thus in 2005 to 7, ethanol production increased by about 41%, from 44.3 to 62.6%. Distilleries are considered one of the most polluting industries, as 88% of the raw materials are converted into waste and discharged into the water bodies, causing water pollution. In the distillery, for every liter of alcohol produced, about 15 liters of spent wash is released. So you can imagine how much wastewater is being produced. Then just I have a little background. Currently, alcohol production is based on the use of non-waste agriculture substrates such as cereals, potato starch, etc. So on a global scale, about 47% of ethanol is produced from sugary raw materials. There are 4 stages of alcohol production in distilleries that are feed, where the ethanol production raw materials containing nitrogen and phosphate supplements are used. Then comes the fermentation, in which yeast is used, for example, Saccharomyces, which convert the carbohydrates into alcohol and then settle in sludge at the end of the process. The mass after fermentation contains 8 to 10% of ethanol. And then in distillation column, the alcohol is separated as the product, top product, and the bottom product is a brownish liquid, which is known as distillery stillage. And then comes finally the packaging and deliveries to the clients. Currently, in some countries, byproducts from the distillery industry are used for direct soil fertilization due to their high content in nitrogen, phosphorus, and organics. Is it moving? I think it's stuck.
Yeah, we see the same slide.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
okay. Sugar production. This is the general view of a sugar production, how sugar is produced. That is, sugar cane from the field is harvested and transported to the sugar mill, where it is crushed for sugar cane juice extraction, evaporated in a large pan, and then separated via centrifugal machines. The final product is then packaged and delivered. Now let's see in the short video that how ethanol is being produced in the current study area.
We have always made quality our #1 priority. We have in-house labs at all of our plants that meet international safety and quality standards. Our quality control process begins at the raw materials stage, where we have fully covered molasses tanks for our in-house feedstock, which happens to be the largest amount of captive distillery feedstock in Pakistan. When we buy feedstock externally, we test prior to purchase, individually monitor each shipment, and have an imported seal technology to prevent tampering. During the fermentation process, fermentation parameters are monitored in real time with sampling done hourly. We also import our yeast from the United States to ensure high yields and the purity of our product. Once the product enters the distillation process, we collect samples every 30 minutes to ensure moisture percentages are tightly controlled and impurities are kept to a bare minimum. The odor and appearance of the ethanol is also closely monitored. After the distillation process, the ethanol reaches an intermediate tank where it is immediately sampled and tested to make sure it meets our strict quality standards. Before the intermediate tank is emptied, the ethanol is tested again. Once in general storage, the ethanol is sampled and tested daily to ensure it maintains the properties and quality it had upon entering the storage tanks. Finally, prior to loading from our distillery's storage tanks, the ethanol being sold is sampled and tested again to ensure there is no variation in quality parameters.
Okay, now you have already seen what happens in this industry. It's a general process as occurred in every distillery and a sugar mill. Now let's move on towards the significance of the study that I have done. The current study is based in Muzaffargarh, Pakistan, and due to repetitive usage of area resources, the natural plateau is suffering a harsh spoil environment that have caused severe environmental and health related issues to the surrounding area and the local people residing there. For example, water pollution from industrial effluent has degraded the water quality day by day, hence the vegetation and greenery of the respective area. Then you can see that from air pollution, asthma and other different diseases are attacking people living near the vicinity of these areas. And also increased transportation is also causing a major threat to wildlife in the area, and wildlife is suffering from habitat loss due to frequent disappearing of forests only for the sake of industrialization. So this study aims to assess the environmental impacts of such industries through air monitoring on-site, soil sample analysis, and water sample analysis. And the rationale of the study is that the environmental pollution load can be mitigated without closing industrial units, as shutting down the mills is not the only solution for every problem. These were the aims and objectives of study, i.e. monitoring various environmental quality parameters of air, water, and soil, to inspect the wastewater pollution load in sugar mill, to evaluate the pollutants concentration in air, assessing environmental impacts of sugar mills, and then suggesting feasible and environmental friendly actions to resolve and mitigate adverse health and environmental impacts. This is the study area. um, yes, this industry comprises of three sugar mills, two ethanol in distilleries, and a carbon dioxide plant. They have two main labs by multiple professional chemists and biologists. The distillation column are made from high-grade stainless steel, which prevents corrosion and thereby protect the ethanol from impurities. End products produced were sugar, ethanol, and carbon dioxide. The raw material for this sugar mill was sugarcane, while that for the distillery industry was molasses collected from the respective sugar mill. Molasses from sugar operations is stored in fully covered tanks to prevent excess moisture loss and to ensure sugar content is retained. This industry is manufacturing both extra neutral alcohol ENA and rectified spirit REN grades of ethanol as well. So this is the aerial view of study area where a road named Shah Jamal was the main road touching the project site location. There was a stream running nearby used for draining effluents from the mill, and about 500 meters away there was a residential area. This was the pond or a collective tank you can see here that was used to discharge the wastewater or to collect the wastewater in there, and from there the processed water was discharged into the nearby stream slowly so that the pollution load in the water body having that wastewater in it could be controlled at a time. Let's see what were the methodologies that were adopted during the whole assessment. This is a general or universal method that can be used for conducting environmental monitoring and impact assessment of any industry in the world. First of all, secondary data was collected through complete literature survey and comprehensive information regarding sugar and distillery industry and its adverse impacts on surrounding environment. Basically, the baseline study of research area was carried out and impacts were noted down as well. Then primary data was collected through a reconnaissance survey. A thorough site visit was conducted in which various samples were gathered and relevant checklists were filed respectively. In present study, we researched on essential environmental quality parameters like water, soil, air, and noise. Noise and air pollution were monitored at spot through various instruments, while water and soil samples were taken and later were analyzed in the lab. In primary data collection, we have sampling, checklist, and monitoring. In checklist section for assessing the social impact of industry, general public interviews were recorded on a form and checklist was filed to estimate whether local people are accepting the industrial working areas or not. While in sampling section, we collected samples of wastewater, groundwater, and the soil. All the samples were collected by adopting proper standards method for examination of water and wastewater by APHA USA. Sample from the canal was collected from location where the water was well mixed, homogenized and flowing, whereas grab sampling method was used for processed and wastewater sampling. For groundwater sampling, we collected the samples of water at the depth of 200 feet at a project site. Then the values for TDS, chloride, pH, sodium, turbidity, and other elements you can see here in the slide were analyzed, and similarly the other elements or parameters you can say, for example, pH, sulfate, chloride, fluoride, etc., were analyzed by taking soil samples from the study area. For monitoring section, we have noise monitoring and air monitoring. Ambient atmospheric quality parameters like NOXs or nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, ozone, and PM10 were monitored at various points, as will be shown in the results section later on. While for noise level monitoring was done in decibels at 3 points: start, mid, and end of the project site. On-site monitoring operators and sampling materials were required for the site survey and monitoring. HAZ scanner was used for measuring atmospheric gases, while digital sound level meter was used for measuring the noise level at the project site. For water samples and soil samples, various laboratory instruments were used. For example, titration assembly, atomic absorption spectrophotometer, and flame photometer were used for analyzing various elements in the soil and water body. For knowing the reference methods of each parameter that I have gone through, you can check my thesis in detail. At last, the data was analyzed and results were interpreted accordingly. These were the photos taken while collecting various samples. You can see this is the collection of wastewater at the right and tap water or for groundwater at the left. Then we have at the right the instruments for measuring air monitoring and on the left we are collecting soil samples. This table is showing the concentration of various air pollutants monitored at project site. This is its graph showing the comparison among various concentrations of air pollutants at 3 different points of the site project. It shows that the concentration of pollutants is higher at the project unit while interchangeably lower in the generator site and near main road, except for nitrogen dioxide. It also shows that the concentrations of carbon monoxide, ozone, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide are below PEQs, while noise and PM10 are higher than PEQs near the main road and generator site. PEQ stands for Pakistan Environmental Quality Standards, or you can also say NEQS as National Environmental Quality Standards. These are the standards that are set by the government for the industries to allow the air pollutants or noise levels set for a specific period of time. However, in case of WHO standards, i.e. World Health Organization standards, levels of sulfur dioxide and ozone are below standards, but concentrations are higher for carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, noise, and PM10. Here, if you are not familiar with PM10, then PM stands for particulate matters that are hazardous, inhalable, inorganic, or organic particles which remain suspended in the atmosphere and have significant environmental issues. They can be of different sizes, but the most common are thought to be hazardous are PM 2.5 and PM 10. 10 means size equal or smaller than 10 micrometer. The table showing chemical analysis report of a soil sample. Various minerals concentrations were analyzed and then arranged in a tabular form. And its figure is showing the graphical representation of composition of soil sample with different minerals and their concentrations in the soil. In anions, sulfate and chloride are the highest concentration, while in cations, calcium and sodium are rich in concentration, whereas remaining mineral components were found in the least amount and none of the heavy metals was detected in high concentration. This table is showing the chemical analysis report of groundwater at the depth of 200 feet. And figure is showing the comparison among different concentrations of groundwater pollutants. It describes that concentrations of pH, TDS, chloride, and sodium are the highest among other pollutants and also exceed the set limit of PQs or WHOs. Dissolved salts are the main reason behind high TDS content, total dissolved solids, TDS. And however, turbidity is within allowable limit of PQs. Turbidity is considered as second and key parameter for testing water to be polluted or not. Turbid water is not necessary to be hazardous. Some minor treatment technology may improve the water quality. It may include sedimentation or coagulation, flocculation techniques, etc. Moreover, potassium and sulfate were also detected during the analysis. Now come up our last chemical analysis report, that is of processed water, and its figure is showing the comparison among different concentrations of processed water pollutants at the project site. It describes that the concentration of every variable observed in the processed water is above the permissible limit. As it is a processed water or wastewater, you can see, while chloride concentration is only above WHO standards, yet just touching the borderline of PQ standards. For people don't know about the terms COD and BOD here, then COD stands for chemical oxygen demand, while BOD stands for biological oxygen demand. Both means the measure of amount of oxygen COD means the measure of amount of oxygen required for oxidize a particular amount of organic matter in wastewater by using strong oxidizing agent. But in BOD, we use a aerobic microorganisms during the course of 5 days. So in COD, we use chemical agent, while in BOD, we use microorganism. Graphical representation in figure shows that COD value is greater than BOD in the processed water. This is because of the fact that COD is the most accurate method for measuring concentration of organic matter in wastewater, as its strong oxidizing agent is used. That's why you will observe values of COD will always be higher in the BOD. Conclusion: on the basis of given evaluations and analysis report, it is concluded that current sugar mill and distillery can be continue operating under controlled circumstances and mitigation measures. However, further steps should be taken to mitigate potential hazards in already stressed environment and pollutants. Concentration of pollutants should be lowered to already set respective standard values so that without shutting down the industries, the environment could be saved and the country's economy should progress simultaneously. The present study also concluded that distillery industries use a huge amount of water, various types of chemicals and raw materials in the production of alcohol, which generate high strength of wastewater. Due to very high BOD and COD, this wastewater is considered an environmental hazard for both the water body as well as soil, as the water will seep through the soil. You can imagine, and will enter into the groundwater that we will drink later on. Thus, there is an urgent need to address the limitations in the existing methods and develops integrated treatment processes that provide a complete solution to the treatment of distillery wastewater. Immediate actions and specific policies will be required to minimize the different sources of pollutants later on with the passage of time. Moreover, there is need to develop specific EIA, environmental impact assessment, and environmental monitoring guidelines, as the unmonitored running of such industries is causing severe damage to our atmosphere, as can be seen from all above analysis, monitoring reports, both on-site and laboratory, and issues explained by the local communities. Thus, installing a new plant with such a scenario and environmentally disturbed area is both socially unacceptable and environmentally not feasible. Based on current studies, some recommendations are given for the operation of sugar mill and distillery in proposed areas so as to lessen or minimize potential negative impacts. First, consideration of potential air emission and appropriate control measures like dust control measures for the PM10 and periodic monitoring of emissions. Second, waste heat recovery technology should be introduced in the plant to save countries' energy resources. Third, promote renewable energy resources like solar, hydro, biogas, and wind energy, etc., in all the industries to discourage coal power plants and fossil fuel plants that emit lots of pollution, thus growing sustainably in the industrial sector and promoting green economy. Fourth, as we know that Pakistan is currently facing water shortening problems, thus industries should use water consciously and must follow water conservation practices. Fifth, workers must wear PPEs. PPE stand for personal protective equipments like helmets, etc. While working in any industry where probability of hazard is maximum. Sixth comes up regular internal and external audits should be carried out by responsible authorities. And at last, it is recommended to discharge sugar mill and distillery effluent or any industry's effluent during heavy flow of rain. In Pakistan, it's range from July to August. So I have written here this range. You can do according to your region. So their receiving water body would receive a dilute form of wastewater with minimum negative impacts. Thank you so much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Nida. And thank you also for being quick with your presentation. I think we can now open the floor for discussion. So I will collect questions and answer, and you will be able to answer those questions if you wish.
Yeah, sure.
But before we do that, the last point that you raised in your presentation referred to these climate problems that we have heard in Pakistan. How is the situation now in your area, and how much affected was the area of the distillery that you are analyzing?
Yeah, the distillery during the process of thesis working over there, I analyzed much suffocation in the air as air pollution was a lot. I have shown in my presentation, you have seen already that there were a huge amount of pollutants emitting from the industry.
No, I was
Is
referring. I
yeah.
was referring to the exceptional rain seasons that have affected Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah. This is due to the fact that many industries are emitting pollutants and they are gathering in the environment, and due to that raining season or the climate change has been changed so much. If you ask me, in that region seems to be much colder in October season, but now it's too much hot over here. So there is a climate change and that is impacting the raining season as well, but mostly raining season starts from July to August here in Pakistan, all over the Pakistan. It's not that being affected that much. So industries are allowed or they are permitted to discharge their wastewater during that season so that the pollution lot in the streams or canals or rivers can be controlled.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay. I invite the participants to raise their hands and um, formulate their questions if they have questions. If I don't see any hands up, I will continue asking some questions because I was curious about your presentation, and um, I think you have done a very good job with
Thank you.
your research. Um, I one of the questions that came to my mind is whether there is a connection between the ability to assess the environmental impact of such an hazardous industry like the distillery, um,
Mhm.
and the ability of that enterprise, that company, to communicate the results of that assessment in terms of public um, protection measures and I mean what we call disclosure. Is the public um, around the distillery or the people who may be affected by the pollution derived from the distillery, are they um, ready to ask for information being released by the company, and is there a commercial value, if you wish, after you monitor and you assess the effect of the distillery in terms of making the distillery more socially acceptable to the people who live there?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And the answer is here is that we have gone through the residential community living there, and we have filed many checklists and asked them, okay, what are their views and the comments on the operation of the distilleries or the industries they are living around. And they say, okay, we are very much disturbed and there is very much pollution and etc with respect to environment, but with respect to economy they are very happy because they have found new jobs, they have found new opportunities to work over there. But on the same side there is with pro there comes cons. So if they are getting money because they are very poor and living there, they are suffering from harsh environments, like they have many diseases, asthma and what eyes, watery eyes, etc. You can imagine living beside a high pollution emitting industry, but they are living because they want to earn, they want to um, mm, uh, give their child a better lifestyle. So yeah, they are suffering from this environment. As for us, your question is that whether the industry is ready to disclose their readings or values to the public. The answer is no, they are never. I have worked in that industry, not only in this industry, I have worked in many industries, and none of them is allowing me to disclose their name or disclose their values to the public or to the nation, because this comes up to their economy sector. You can say that if any government if any government agency or organization have seen that okay, this industry ABCD is a polluting this much and they have exceeded the standards. You can see in my report that many of the pollutants are exceeding the standards set by the government. So if they have seen that okay, this industry is exceeding the pollutant load in the atmosphere or in water body, whatever it is, they will surely went and close that industry forever. And no businessman will want that, to close that industry or to close that, so they hide it. They only allow me to publicly disclose the information on the condition that I will not show their name. I will not show their company or a distillery or sugar name to the public, so that nobody will know. I can just use as a general term as a sugar mill or industry to show people okay what happens in an industry. I have also worked in my bachelor's in the steel re-rolling mill, and the same process was there. They weren't even they weren't allowing me to take some readings of in, because they were saying okay, you are not government officials or you are not the legal authorities, so why we will allow you to take these readings, etc. So this is the problem. I think this will be the problem everywhere, and no one will want to disclose their personal data, specifically in terms of that they will degrade their value or their economy in the sector. So yeah, they are hesitant, and they will not allow anyone to disclose it. But yes, from naked eye view, everyone can tell okay, this industry is polluting so much. There will be something over there.
But when you go to the distillery, uh,
Mhm.
do they ask you what is the situation of other distilleries in terms of polluting?
Everyone know, like for example, I'll give the example. If I am a student, I we have a batch of masters in management sustainable goals. I will know every student's thoughts, okay, what she is thinking and what he is thinking about that thing. But I will never disclose to anyone, because I will be the one of that. So this is a group, this is a whole mafia that is working in an industry. No one will disclose. Everyone knows that that industry ABCD is producing this much pollution, that industry is producing this much pollution, and that are even I will tell you an example. I was working in this as an intern in this distillery, and there was a pharmaceutical industry nearby. And what they did, whenever they pass out the wastewater into the streams, they did it at the same time. So whenever a legal authority comes, they will put the um, condi- like name of other industry. Okay, this sugar mill will say okay, this wastewater was coming from pharmaceutical industry, because they were discharging at the same time. And pharmaceutical industry will say okay, this pollution was discharging from the sugar mill. So no, water, in water there is a homogenized mixture. So this is a whole mafia, this is a whole group, this is the problem, that no one is taking responsibility, and no one is thinking okay, the environment is being polluted, so one have to do its job and take responsibility. They will just do a little one that will just cover their portfolio of what they are emitting from their industry. Like they will use the personal protective equipments for the laborers, they will give the bonuses and incentives to the laborers to make them happy, but no one care about the health, no one care about the environment. As far as they are getting money from this thing, no one is concerning what is happening in the environment. So there is no specific you can say guideline or rules that are being followed. So this was the reason I urged okay, I this issue need to be emerged, this issue need to be study. I studied in previous industry. Okay, one more thing. I didn't went to this distillery or sugar mill as a thesis student. I went there as an internee. I worked there. I collected the data over there, and then I made a thesis out of that. This was the trick I used to just extract the data from that industry, because working in there will let you know more rather than you just visit the industry. You can imagine. So yeah, this is
Thank,
it.
thank you, Nida. There is
Thank
a
you so much.
question from the floor. Abdel Hamid Sharif, do you want to put it yourself, or should I read what you wrote on the chat?
Whatever it is suitable for you. I can hear.
Okay, please go ahead. Can you give
Now,
the open up the microphone of Abdel Hamid Sharif? Okay, so I should read it. Okay, so the question from Abdel Hamid Sharif is, did you do a carbon assessment study of the project to see the impact and see if you could apply a losses and damages claim on the polluter side?
not specifically a carbon assessment study, but I did an overall a general environmental study in which carbon was detected. And for the mitigation measures that I suggested to them, I have listed them in my thesis. There was a no space, or you can say need to show it here. So, okay, let me share you my screen. Um, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this was my thesis, and let me show you. Okay, these were the mitigation measures. Uh, yes, these were the impacts and mitigation measures that I suggested to the industry that they should follow at the construction phase. And then these are the whole like tabular form. You can go and watch my thesis. And this was at the operation phase. This all covered the carbon monoxide, but on a short note, I'll just tell you that what I suggest to them, that was for carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide emissions, I suggest them to use the bag filters of the bag filters and the electrostatic precipitators and the scrubbers for the exhaust, so that the carbon dioxide may stick to the scrubbers and the bag filters with just emitting from the industry, so that the soot or the smoke coming from the industry would be of carbon free.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Welcome.
Kirsti, there is a question from the floor. Can you open up the microphone of Maha D1?
Yep, done. Should be able to speak now if she wants to ask the question.
Maha? We cannot hear you. Maybe
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes,
Yeah, hello, hi.
can
So
hear you.
thank you for the great presentation. I have two questions. One is how can we apply this to ports and terminals, container
Sorry,
terminals? How can we apply this? Can you give me any guidance how to apply this for container ports?
Yeah, I have mentioned in my presentation already the methodology section, that this is the general methodology that I followed. Maybe you have seen that. Like I have gone through the first, I have done a secondary survey, collected the data regarding the issue or the site that I'm going to study. Then I collected the primary data through sampling and checklist and monitoring. For sampling, I have listed the parameters, and for monitoring as well. For checklist, we gone through a list of checklists that I have attached with my thesis at the appendices, that what people think. And then after gaining the results from this groundwater, wastewater and soil, and from the air, we analyzed the data and results were interpreted and as shown in the graph. So yes, this is a general methodology. You can use it everywhere. in any industry, not only the sugar mill or distillery. This is the general.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Welcome,
So,
welcome. Thank you.
another question that just came to my mind when you were talking, just to know, I'm not saying
Mhm,
I'm not with or against, but when you
mhm.
go as an intern or work in a place, don't you have something like an NDA? So can you get their data behind their backs or with them not knowing?
No, 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 no. It's not possible to get the data behind their backs because I was an internee, not a worker over there. And you know, the internee have a boss with them every time they move. So I gather the data. I have a friend over there. So I gather the data with them, with their instruments, with their tools. I don't have any hair scanner, or hair scanner is a big tool. You can check out. I can't afford that. So hair scanner and the digital sound level meters, every tools and every laboratory, even labs were used of by them. So I just gathered the data from their files. I asked them, I asked permission from them that can I use your data in my thesis? I will not. I said already that I will not, they only allow me unless and until I will not let their name to be exposed. That I did. So
Yes, exactly.
they know that I have their data and I have already used in my thesis. That's why they allowed me to just use it, but don't use their name.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I was thinking just about the NDA when you
No, no, no,
said
no.
it.
Yeah,
You know,
that was
that
obviously.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Just to keep going, um, I have a question, an additional question for you, Nida.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now you have um, uh, clearly shown us how there is a big problem there. At the same time, you have told us that the stakeholders who are um, the employees who work in the industry, in the polluting industry, and the local communities do not seem to be um, careful, do not seem to be attentive to what can be the consequences of that pollution, of that mismanagement of environmental resources. And it is not clear which incentives the owners of the industry will have to change in a pro-environmental way what they are doing. So where, in your view, where should we start? I mean, should the state issue new laws and regulations, or can there be something else? Maybe the laws and regulations will be put in place, but then they will not be enforced. Because if you say that there is a lot of corruption, as I seem to understand from what you said, probably the laws are not going to be enough. So where should we start in order to improve the situation?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you are right that there is a lot of corruption and there are many laws. I can list 100 of them that are here in this state for in protecting the environment. And one thing, there's a funny thing there, that every industry have an environmental officer. Hi, but just for the sake of name, not for the sake of work. And whenever the external audits are done by the state or the government in the industry, they do charge them of polluting that much. And they pay the charge because they can afford it. They can do that easily rather than just lower the for them. Because if they, let's suppose, the distillery industry, they are producing so much wastewater. We can see, everyone can say without seeing the results that yes, this if distillery industry, then there would be a lot of wastewater. So yeah, if they produce less wastewater, they will use very expensive instruments to treat the wastewater. You can say RO technique is very expensive, and to treat the wastewater, there is a huge amount that is need to be used. Why they will bother if they if they can pay the charge that government will? If the charge is of, you can say, 1,000 euros, let's suppose it's not that much, there's this very less. So if the charge is of 1,000 euro, then the water treatment plant would come with the 50,000 euro. So they would rather pay the charge than to install a new water treatment plant. You can understand what I am saying. So yeah, to start, in my opinion, it's just the responsibility of a smaller person, like the local people residing there. They should feel that this is their responsibility to say, okay, we are living there, we have a right to live, we have a right to speak. Just close the industry, just do this, otherwise we will stop working over there. Like the labor should say, labor should raise their voice, and there are many NGOs that are working for this, and that are available. But the reason behind everything is that the industry shut their mouth by giving the money to them, by giving, okay, just shut their mouth, just don't publish the report, just don't. If the newscaster is going to cover the industry or anything, they will just give the money and they say, okay, keep it and just don't display or don't publish it publicly. So I think that there is no um, way to just stop this corruption, because it's in everybody, it's in every person's behavior. The thing we should start is analyzing that our future or our next generation is on the stake. Like, they are going to suffer. Once the person will analyze this, or the person will feel, or will take the responsibility, okay, we should move sustainably, and we should take the responsibility of clean environment, otherwise we will be at the stake of this pollution or the climate change and etc. This will cause a huge problem. Then there is a way, there is a light that we can see that um, everything gonna be right, or everything gonna be fine. Unless then, no one is gonna what should government do? They will come and charge them, and they will pay the charge. The reporters will come, the NGOs will raise the voice, they will give them money and shut their mouth. So where should we start? There is no need. There is just one reason, that everyone should feel that, okay, this is gonna be a mess sometimes, and it is becoming a mess. There is if you can search in Lahore, where I am living right now, there is a lot of pollution, and Lahore is now the number one polluted city in the whole world. You can search right now on the Google. So, what's the reason behind this? This is the reason. They are now facing the consequences of what they are doing. But still, there is
Yeah.
um, uh, blindness in I don't know what to say and what to not, that this is just a fact and reality we are all facing. Yeah,
And
thank you.
but
Hmm.
let's face it. I mean, I live in Europe. I've been living most of my life in either Europe or North America, or shortly in Japan. So I have no practical experience of living in developing country or emerging country.
Hmm.
And I have only studied those realities from
Hmm.
my desk. So I do not have enough experience. But is there the possibility that at some point there are some green parties, as we have in Europe or in other parts of the Western world, that raise the issue? Is that the possibility that you foresee for the future, or this is simply not the case in Pakistan?
Yeah, there are many NGOs and there are many parties that are working greener and that are encouraging people, and they are now just awareing people and other stakeholders about the consequences of this issue. But the thing is that in developing country, the main issue is not the environment or the pollution. The main issue is the economy. You can imagine in a developing country, you live in Europe, that is developed, you went to the Japan, that is developed. Okay, they have now next issue, which is environment, so they are maintaining that thing. But in developing country like Pakistan, India, etc., the main issue is the economy. The people are suffering from poverty, they are suffering from water resources, water shortening resources, and they are suffering from gender equality. We have gone through the sustainable development goals, you know very well. So yeah, this is their prior issues. This is their prior priority to resolve this, not the environment. Environment come much later than this. First is the poverty, then is the education, which is the most important thing. If you will educate the people, they will they will get to know about the consequences. If they are not educated, they will say, okay, this is the pollution, okay, what else, we are getting the money, we are earning something, we are economically, we are getting economically stable. So yes, economy is the first issue here in the developing country. If this is resolved, then everyone will start thinking about cleaning the environment. So in a developing country, first we have to be economically stable and have some industries from the developed countries, or have some programs from or funds from the developed countries to, sorry, 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from the developing countries to make the environment greener, because the country itself is not capable or able to support a cleaner environment. It is just making the economy. You can imagine the uh, condition of a developing country that is struggling right now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ferry.
If there is no other question from the floor, I think we can draw this meeting to a close. I wish to thank all the participants, and particularly my student Nida Fatima, who has clearly done a very important work, and she has done it under unfavorable conditions. So that is an additional merit. So good luck with
Thank you so much.
continuation of your efforts, and we will be in touch for the master. But it was a pleasure to share what Nida has been doing with all the audience we have had today. So good luck, everybody, and let's meet again for the next workshops. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.